Keep something for yourself. The power of strategic silence. In a world obsessed with openness where vulnerability is marketed and every thought is expected to be shared, the most powerful thing you can do is hold something back. You were taught to believe that transparency equals honesty and that emotional exposure is a sign of trust. But what if that's the very illusion that weakens you? Machiavelli would tell you the more others know about your inner world, the more power they have over you. Every time you share a fear, a hope, or a hidden dream without discernment, you give away pieces of yourself. You're drawing a map to your emotional core, and even if someone loves you today, there's no guarantee they'll still love you tomorrow. People change, interests shift, and what once was intimacy can quickly become ammunition. Strategic silence is not about lying. It's about choosing who earns access to the deepest parts of your mind. In a society built on performance where even empathy can be manufactured, guarding your thoughts is not cold, it's wise. When you give everything away, you become predictable. And anything predictable can be controlled. The digital age pressures you to overshare. Every platform tells you to post your highs, your lows, your trauma, your love, your grief. But real power is built in privacy. Silence is no longer passive, it is active protection. You become unshakable, not because you yell louder, but because no one knows what you're thinking. If you want real strength, start by creating a sanctuary within yourself, a part of your mind, your emotions, your soul that is off limits to the world. Not even the people closest to you need to know everything. And in doing so, you'll feel something rare: sovereignty. The calm that comes from knowing that no matter what happens out there, they don't hold the keys to what matters most in here. People don't respect what is freely given. They respect what's withheld with intention. So speak with purpose, share with caution, and protect the silence inside you like a crown jewel. Because in the theater of the modern world, the one who says the least often sees the most. The invisible threat. Why the most dangerous man looks harmless. True power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't raise its voice or boast of victories. In fact, the most dangerous man in the room often appears to be the most uncertain, the most quiet, the most easily overlooked. Why? Because while everyone else is performing strength, he is building it. Machiavelli understood something that society today often forgets. When you show strength too soon, you attract resistance. You provoke competition. You become a target. But when you appear doubtful, when you let them believe you're struggling or unsure, they stop watching you. They underestimate you. And in that blind spot, you grow. While they talk, you listen. While they boast, you build. While they chase validation, you build inner control. And by the time they realize you've changed the game, it's already too late to stop you. This is the quiet genius of strategic invisibility. You are not hiding out of fear, you are hiding to prepare. This world rewards confidence, yes, but it fears unpredictability more. If they can't read you, they can't predict you. And if they can't predict you, they can't control you. Pretending to be weak is not about being deceptive. It's about understanding the timing of power. There's a season to be silent and a season to strike. The key is knowing when to disappear and when to dominate. Of course, this strategy demands discipline. It requires you to let others misjudge you. It demands that you stomach their pity, their doubt, even their mockery without reacting. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be talked down to. But you'll endure it all in silence because deep down, you know who you're becoming. You're not here to shine for applause. You're here to build something so solid that when it finally reveals itself, it doesn't ask for attention, it commands it. So let them think you're unsure. Let them laugh. Let them believe they're ahead. And while they sleep on you, you sharpen your edge in the dark. Because real power doesn't roar, it waits. And when it arrives, it doesn't ask for permission. It redefines the entire game. Give them the illusion. Take what they don't expect. The most effective manipulation doesn't come from force. It comes from precision, from giving others exactly what they expect while quietly claiming what they never saw coming. In a world built on habits, assumptions, and comfort, the one who learns to work within those patterns rewrites the rules of the game. Machiavelli would never advise you to confront the system head-on. That's how rebels get crushed. No. The true strategist enters quietly, gives people their roles, flatters their needs, and all the while, repositions the entire game board. You don't break egos, you feed them. You don't resist the narrative, you become part of it, until it bends to you. People defend what makes them feel important. They don't protect the truth, they protect their identity. If you threaten their sense of control, they resist you. But if you give them the illusion of control, they welcome you in. They praise you, share power with you, trust you. And by the time they realize what you've really done, they're already part of it. Sometimes they'll even defend you, while you slowly dismantle the structure they once thought was theirs. This is not evil, it's reality. Influence that lasts doesn't scream. It whispers. It comforts. It gives people what they crave: validation, recognition, significance, and uses that connection as a bridge to build real leverage. You make them feel seen while you study their blind spots. You give them a spotlight while you plant foundations beneath the stage. But it takes restraint. You must silence the desire to dominate. You must become fluid, adaptable, and patient enough to let others believe they're leading when in fact they're being led. When people feel like they're winning, they never suspect they're being redirected. That's the secret. Win their trust, meet their ego, and you'll be granted access no brute force could ever achieve. And once inside, you don't shout. You shift. You take. You redesign the landscape one invisible decision at a time. So give the world the face it wants to see. And behind that mask, become exactly who you were meant to be, the one who doesn't fight the system, but rewrites it from within. Don't show anger. Become the fear they didn't expect. When someone attacks you, your instinct is to fight back, to defend, to shout, to unleash your anger like fire. But Machiavelli understood something colder, deeper, and far more powerful. The one who makes you angry already owns a part of you. Because the moment you react emotionally, you're no longer in control, you're being controlled. Anger is easy to read. It's predictable. It tells your opponent exactly where to strike next. They see your triggers, they see your insecurities. They know what matters to you and how to weaponize it. But fear is different. Fear is born from uncertainty, from silence, from what they don't see coming. That's why the true strategist doesn't retaliate with rage, he responds with calm, with quiet decisions, with cold precision. You look your aggressor in the eye, but you don't flinch, you don't explain, you don't raise your voice. Instead, you let your silence stretch until it becomes a weight they can't ignore. And in that stillness, they start to panic. The modern world celebrates reaction, fast replies, hot takes, emotional explosions. But real power is in restraint, in letting someone reveal their chaos while you remain composed. Because when they see that their outburst didn't move you, didn't rattle you, they begin to question themselves. And that's where fear begins, in the gap between what they expected and what they experienced. This doesn't mean you let yourself be disrespected. It means you don't lower yourself to visible retaliation. You strike in ways they didn't prepare for. You act when they've stopped watching. You let their aggression become their weakness, while your silence becomes your strength. It's not about revenge. It's about dominance without noise. Because in a world that screams to be heard, it is stillness that creates discomfort. And discomfort leads to doubt. And doubt is the seed of fear. So next time someone tries to provoke you, don't give them your fire, give them your ice. Show them that you are unreadable, that you can't be manipulated by emotions, that your power lies in patience and calculation and command. Because the man who controls his response controls the outcome. Lead without threat. The quiet power of strategic flattery. Power doesn't always come from being the smartest in the room. Sometimes it comes from letting others believe they are. Machiavelli understood a truth most people avoid. Visible superiority breeds envy. If you shine too bright, others will try to dim your light. If you make people feel small, they will work quietly or viciously to cut you down. But if you build your empire surrounded by those who feel important, because of you, not in spite of you, they will guard your throne like it's their own. That's why the true strategist never flaunts his intelligence. He studies people's egos, their need to feel capable, valued, irreplaceable, and he feeds it carefully, not to manipulate for cruelty, but to build a network of loyalty rooted in illusion. You give them roles, you praise their insight, you make them feel like they matter, and in doing so, you make yourself essential. The goal isn't to belittle anyone, it's to channel human nature. People want to be seen. They want recognition. Even average minds will fight to the death for a cause that makes them feel like geniuses, so give them that cause. Let them feel they're shaping your success, even as you subtly hold the reins. But there's a warning here: never let flattery become contempt. The moment you mock the very people you empower, you expose yourself. Respect them even if you know their limits. You don't need to lie. You just need to withhold the full truth. This isn't manipulation born of malice. It's leadership born of insight. In return, you'll gain something rare: people who defend you, speak for you, and stay loyal. Not because they understand your vision, but because they think they're part of it. You become the quiet architect standing behind the voices you've empowered. And the more they shine in your presence, the more they protect your shadow. Because in the end, most people don't want to lead, they just want to feel significant. And the man who understands that doesn't need to fight for power. He builds it around him, one ego at a time. See everything. Reveal nothing. In a world addicted to attention, silence has become the most underestimated form of power. While others race to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized, the man who watches quietly, who listens without revealing his thoughts, becomes the most dangerous presence in the room. Because he's not part of the performance, he's studying it. Machiavelli knew that true influence isn't about being loud, it's about being unreadable. The moment people think they understand you, they start mapping your patterns. They begin to anticipate your next move. And anything predictable can be neutralized. But when you remain still emotionally disciplined, intellectually composed, you become ungraspable. And that in a world obsessed with labeling and control is terrifying. This doesn't mean disappearing. It means mastering restraint. It means learning to blend in while your mind works like a radar scanning behavior, decoding intent, identifying who flatters out of fear and who dominates out of insecurity. Most people aren't looking for truth. They're chasing validation, approval, emotional survival. And while they perform, you prepare. To observe without exposing yourself takes inner strength. It requires resisting the urge to be recognized, to correct, to react. You'll be tempted to speak up, to prove your worth, to claim your space. But power isn't in being seen, it's in being unseen, but aware. The quiet observer sees behind masks. He notices micro-reactions, shifting loyalties, hidden agendas. And while others are caught in a web of their own projection, you're already 5 moves ahead because your vision isn't clouded by the need to be liked or understood. But make no mistake, silence isn't passivity. It's precision. It's strategy. You're not doing less, you're doing more, just without an audience. And that unnerves people. They don't know where you stand. They don't know what you want. And what they can't categorize, they fear. So don't be the one who always has something to say. Be the one who sees everything and says only what matters. The shadows belong to thinkers. And from that place, you don't just watch the world, you start shaping it one silent decision at a time. Kindness without leverage is just currency for the ungrateful. We've been told since childhood to give without expecting anything in return, to help freely, to be generous for the sake of it. But the harsh truth: in the real world, kindness without memory is treated like weakness. People don't value what they didn't earn, and they quickly forget what they were given for free. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He understood that gratitude is fragile, but debt is sticky. When you do something for someone, truly help them, support them, rescue them, but make it clear that it came from the goodness of your heart, it often gets taken for granted. They move on. They rewrite the story. They even resent you for reminding them of your generosity. But when you help with intention, when your act of kindness is a move, not a sacrifice, everything changes. This isn't about transactional relationships. It's about respect. If you want your generosity to be remembered, tie it to a subtle sense of obligation. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to demand anything. But let them feel it. Let the weight of your gift linger quietly in the room. You held the door open for them when no one else did. You were there when it was inconvenient. You gave your time, your resources, your influence, and that matters. Even if they deny it deep down, they know. And that silent awareness becomes a psychological thread, one you can pull when the moment is right, not to exploit, but to steer. The man who gives with strategy doesn't walk away empty. He plants a seed of loyalty, of caution, of subconscious allegiance. And when the time comes, a vote, a favor, a defense, behind closed doors, they'll hesitate before turning against him. Because they owe him, even if no one says it out loud. You don't need to remind people of what you did. Let silence do that. Let their conscience carry the weight. Let the invisible thread tighten at the right moment. Because in a world where attention fades fast and loyalty is rare, a well-placed debt lasts longer than any thank you. Feel less, appear more. The art of emotional illusion. We live in a culture that worships emotional authenticity. You're told to feel everything, to wear your heart on your sleeve, to be vulnerable in the name of connection. But Machiavelli would have warned you, emotions are not always a bridge, sometimes they are a leash. And if you're not careful, someone will use your feelings to control you. There is nothing wrong with emotions, they're part of being human. But the moment they dictate your actions, your decisions, your words, you've handed over your power. Rage makes you impulsive. Excitement makes you naive. Sadness makes you slow. You're not choosing, you're reacting. And that's where the shift begins. You stop being the character and start becoming the director. You learn to feel, but not be ruled. You understand emotion, but don't expose it. You observe it in yourself, the same way you study it in others, like a signal, not a command. And the real mastery, you let others see exactly what they need to see: a flash of empathy, a drop of vulnerability, a spark of passion, without giving them access to the source. It's not deception, it's design. You shape perception. You become emotionally legible only where it benefits you. You appear sincere, grounded, relatable, but inside, you are calm, calculating, composed. That gap between what they see and who you are, that's where your strength lives. People will trust you more because you seem to feel like them. And when they feel seen, they open up. They reveal. They soften. Meanwhile, you remain grounded, not numb, but sovereign. This is not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. You don't repress your emotions, you repurpose them. You don't disconnect from others, you stop needing their approval. And that's what makes you unshakable. Because in a world where people are tossed around by every emotional wave, the one who can feel deeply but act strategically becomes unstoppable. You're not cold, you're in command. You're not fake, you're selective. And in the end, it's not the loudest heart that wins, but the one that knows exactly when to be heard. Stop chasing their love. Make them respect you in silence. Love feels warm. It feels validating. It makes you believe you're safe, appreciated, seen. But what most people don't realize until it's too late is that love is often unstable, fragile, and dangerously conditional. The love they give you today can vanish with one mistake, one disagreement, one moment of weakness. But fear, respectful fear, lingers. It holds the line. It protects your presence even in your absence. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved if one must choose." And not because he glorified cruelty, but because he understood how people really work. Love fades. People love based on what you give them. Your time, your approval, your emotional validation. And when you stop feeding their needs, they often stop loving you. But respectful fear creates distance, a kind of invisible boundary. It stops people from crossing lines. It makes them pause before gossiping about you, testing you, using you. It doesn't mean they're terrified of you. It means they feel the weight of your presence even when you're silent. It means your standards are felt, not begged for. When you chase love, you start negotiating who you are. You soften your voice. You explain too much. You justify your needs. You give until you're drained because you're afraid to lose the connection. And eventually, they stop respecting you, even if they still say they love you. But when you hold your ground, when you stop performing for approval, everything shifts. You speak less, but your words carry more. You don't need validation, because your boundaries validate themselves. You don't fear losing people because you've stopped fearing solitude. Let them admire you if they want. Let them even love you if it happens. But make sure that before they get close, they understand one thing clearly: you are not someone to be played with. You don't tolerate disrespect, and you never beg for belonging. The man who commands respect may not be everyone's favorite, but he's the one people remember when it matters most. Not because he smiled the most, but because he taught the world how to treat him without ever needing to ask. Speak through others. Influence without exposure. In the modern world, the person who speaks first is often the one who gets judged first, and the one who speaks too much. They reveal too much: their thoughts, their strategy, their emotional state. That's why Machiavelli would never tell you to always be vocal. He would tell you to be deliberate and let others speak for you. There's power in not being the source, but the architect behind the words. You don't always need to carry the message, you just need to make sure it's carried. When a controversial idea needs testing, don't announce it. Plant the seed in someone else's mind. Let them voice it. Watch how it's received. If it's embraced, you were the silent origin. If it backfires, you remain untouched. This is the strategy of those who rule quietly in politics and business and social dynamics. They rarely speak directly. Instead, they build relays of influence. They create echo chambers that sound like organic consensus, but were crafted in silence. And by the time people realize the idea has momentum, it's too late to trace it back to the source. It's not cowardice, it's calculated protection. Because in a world where words can be twisted and reputations shattered overnight, discretion is power. Let others be the voice while you shape the narrative. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the room says the least, but everything being said leads back to him. You don't need the spotlight, you need the steering wheel. You don't need the credit, you need the control. And the irony, people trust a message more when it comes from a familiar face, a colleague, a friend, not from a figure they fear or don't fully understand. So hide behind their comfort. Slip your truth into the mouths of others. And while they argue, debate, or cheer, you remain distant, calm, untouchable. Because in this game of perception, the one who doesn't speak loudest but speaks through others is the one truly in control. Let them carry your flame. You just control the spark. Facts don't move the masses. Stories do. In a world flooded with information, the truth is rarely what people follow. They follow what feels real, what's easy to believe, what fits their fears, their hopes, their need for meaning. That's why Machiavelli would tell you, don't waste your time trying to control facts, control the narrative. Because when a story captures someone's emotions, logic becomes irrelevant. You can lose a battle and still appear victorious if you craft the right narrative around your loss. You can make a mistake and turn it into a lesson, a pivot, even a prophecy, as long as you guide how it's perceived. Because people don't remember data, they remember the story you told about it. The most powerful figures in history weren't the most honest, they were the best storytellers. They shaped how events were remembered. They didn't erase their flaws, they reframed them. And when people questioned their decisions, they didn't argue the facts, they offered a compelling reason, a purpose, a villain, a symbol, something bigger than logic. That's how you shift perception. That's how you turn a mistake into momentum, a scandal into sympathy, a moment of weakness into a turning point. Not by changing what happened, but by controlling what it means. In business and politics, even in personal life, those who master narrative master attention. They become immune to criticism because they've already framed the story in their favor. They don't silence their enemies, they drown them out with a more emotionally resonant version of reality. And this doesn't require lies. It requires emotional strategy. You highlight certain details. You downplay others. You speak to the heart before the mind ever questions it. Because when people feel something is true, they rarely investigate whether it actually is. So stop obsessing over being technically correct. Start thinking like an editor of your own myth. Ask yourself, what story are they telling about me? What story am I allowing to grow in silence? Because the man who tells his own story first with clarity, precision, and emotional weight doesn't just defend his reputation, he defines it. And in a world that forgets the facts but remembers the feeling, that makes him unstoppable. Invent the enemy, and they'll follow you without question. Nothing unites people faster than a shared threat. Nothing builds loyalty like fear. Machiavelli knew this truth long before modern media or political spin. If you want to lead people, give them something to fear together, even if the enemy isn't real, even if the threat is exaggerated. Because when people feel unsafe, they stop asking questions and start following whoever promises protection. It's not manipulation, it's human nature. In times of peace, people get comfortable. They start looking too closely at their leaders, questioning authority, pushing back. But introduce a common enemy, a rival, a danger, a symbol of chaos, and suddenly they crave structure, order, certainty. They need someone to draw the line. And if you're the one who defines the enemy, you also become the one who defines safety. You don't need to manufacture hatred. You just need to direct uncertainty. Create a narrative where us must be protected from them. It could be a rival company, a political group, a cultural trend, or even a vague idea like decay disorder or corruption. The point isn't accuracy, it's alignment. You're building cohesion through emotional focus. And once people unite against the threat, they bond under your leadership. They stop competing with each other. They stop analyzing your flaws. Why? Because you've positioned yourself as the guardian of the group's survival, and survival overrides everything else. Fairness, logic, even truth. But beware, this is a weapon that must be handled carefully. Inventing enemies for no reason can spiral into real chaos. So be strategic. Choose targets that channel unrest without destroying what you've built. Use the enemy as a pressure valve, a way to control attention, not ignite destruction. Because the real goal isn't to tear others down, it's to build unshakable loyalty within. And nothing does that faster than fear, paired with direction. So if your people are drifting, if your influence feels thin, if you're losing their attention, don't scream louder. Don't beg for loyalty. Just point to the edge of the horizon and say, that's what's coming for us. And they'll follow not because they trust everything you say, but because you gave them something to stand against and someone strong enough to lead them through it. If you want power, learn to let go of what you love. There comes a moment in every pursuit of strength when life presents you with a brutal choice: keep what comforts you, or protect what defines you. And too often what we love most is what keeps us weak. Machiavelli understood this harsh reality. He knew that greatness doesn't belong to those who cling, but to those who are willing to walk away, even with blood on their heart. You cannot become who you're meant to be if you're still enslaved by who you used to be. That means letting go of the friendships that dilute your focus, the relationships that manipulate your softness, the comforts that make you slow. And sometimes, yes, it means sacrificing the things you never imagined living without. Not out of cruelty, not out of coldness, but because your mission demands it. We live in a world that romanticizes loyalty, permanence, emotional attachment. But the truth is, not everything that feels good is good for you. And the longer you delay the hard decisions, the more likely you are to lose everything: your direction, your edge, your identity. This sacrifice isn't loud. It's not made in anger. It's a quiet, lonely act. You might walk away from someone you still care about. You might choose solitude when comfort is begging you to stay. You might look at what you've built and realize part of it has to burn, and it hurts. But that pain is the price of sovereignty. Because real power doesn't come from what you hold on to. It comes from what you're willing to release in order to stay aligned with who you're becoming. There will be grief, there will be silence, but there will also be clarity. And in that clarity, a different kind of strength emerges. A strength that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't compromise. So if the moment comes, and it will when you have to choose between your peace and your past, let go. Not because you didn't love, but because you refused to betray your future. And that is when you stop chasing the crown and start earning it. In a world of noise, power belongs to the calm. You don't need to scream to be powerful. You don't need to be everywhere, share everything, or prove yourself to anyone. In fact, the more visible your emotions, the easier you are to manipulate. The world you live in today is not built on fairness or honesty. It's built on performance, perception, and control. And unless you learn to navigate that with emotional discipline and strategic clarity, you'll keep giving away your power without realizing it. The key is not to become cold or distant, but to become intentional. Learn when to speak and when to stay silent. Understand that your kindness should never be naive, and your generosity should never come without memory. Don't seek validation from people who haven't earned access to your inner world. Your boundaries aren't rude, they're your protection. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty. He was exposing reality. And the truth is, in both personal life and professional circles, those who rise are rarely the loudest or the most liked. They are the most self-aware. They understand the cost of emotional exposure, the value of being underestimated, and the art of moving in silence. So take back control of your energy. Say less but mean more. Watch more but react less. And remember, power isn't about dominating others, it's about not letting others dominate you. In a world that's constantly trying to make you explain, impress, and please choose stillness. Choose clarity. Choose self-respect. Because the most dangerous person in the room is the one who no longer needs to be seen to be in control.